but what happened to that? Oh, there it is. So yeah, I'm sitting at a 15 big blinds, somewhere around there when the hand starts. So we have a flop. We both check it down. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I definitely don't think, a weak ace and a weak jack is definitely within both of the people's ranges, I think. But I would assume they would bet it. Even out of position, they would lead that in a multi-way pot, just for protection. And since like I'm not showing any strength, I just limped in there. There's a good chance, you could just, even bluff with a bet. I think and take it down. So I feel like basically two checks behind there, I should be pretty good. But I just read a bunch of weakness. So
Yeah, I think
now
you're
there's
right
a
on
bet.
all that for sure.
Yeah. So then there's a min bet. I mean, this is literally one big blind into four. And I figure like I can call that this could be just a pro, like a pro bet from him. Like he could just be stabbing at it, which can happen a lot. And hey, I have some showdown value, and he's giving me good pot odds, so I can definitely show that there. And then we get another call, and then this happens. The deuce of spades comes out, and I feel like my hand, like the way limping in, I'm definitely limping in. There are a bunch of suited connectors, a bunch of suited aces, but definitely I don't have a suited ace. I would have been betting that. But definitely like a bunch of suited connectors, or even like king high, king eight, not king eight, but basically, yeah, just a weak king, suited king. So it goes check, check. And at this point, I mean, I just sense that there's so much weakness in here. And I think like definitely there could be, and someone could have an 8 or a 9. I don't think anybody has an ace or a jack in the scenario. But I feel like I could possibly bluff people off this hand, considering that the pot isn't too big. And if I shove here, and actually, do I open shove or do I? Yeah, I opened. Yeah, okay. I was trying to remember, what did I do here? So I feel like if I shove here and overbet the pot, I'm being pretty polarized, and definitely smells like a flush draw that came in, and would only I think only somebody with an ace would call me there, and that's a pretty weak way to play an ace there, and I mean I guess kind of sneakishly, but yeah, I mean we have a bet, we have a call, and I'm out 75th.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I think all that is definitely right. Your logic on betting there is, you're only polarizing to the flush. It's hard for you to represent anything else. Any two pairs, aces, straights, anything else are playing the hand completely differently. So you have to completely polarize yourself to representing the spades here or air. Um, Going all in makes the most amount of sense as a bluff. It's kind of exploitive because maybe in some sense, if you actually had a flush here, you wouldn't jam, you'd bet, three quarters, hoping for a call anyway. I don't think anyone's
Mm-hmm.
going to be observant that you may have two different bet sizes here on the river. So I don't think
Mm.
that matters that much, but that's definitely something to be aware of splitting
Mm-hmm.
actual ranges here from what you may do and what you may not. Um, but
And
the
it's actually
jam,
interesting that you mentioned that. I have been experimenting with that specific bet size, like 3/4 pot on the river, and also using it basically in polo and as a bluff and as a value, as a value thing, and it works. I like how it works. It
it's
gets more
amazing. It's
calls for
amazing
my
as a bet
value.
class size on the river. Yeah, for putting people to hard enough decisions, but still kind of like easy enough calls. And sometimes, you can use it both as like just looking for folds with certain classes of bluffs and everything like that. And then you can get like a lot of extra value from people who are attracted to the pot odds and kind of think that that's maybe, yeah, like you have enough bluffs in your range. So um, something
Yeah.
like that, where in a hand like this, where you're kind of like saying, well, if I'm betting anyway, I'm saying I have probably like a flush, or maybe I can be betting a little bit less, like maybe some sort of ace X or something like that, or some other sort of like other kind of value, but it makes it easier to bluff catch single pairs here with something like that. So maybe you sneak just, some more actual value bets into that size or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This guy running into the very top of, I mean, this is like pretty much one of the best outcomes he can have is rivering that too. So like you're running into somehow like the top of the check call range here. So it's brutal, that is absolutely brutal.
And at first, I
So
didn't even know. I saw his hand. And I'm like, "What? How? What? Why? How?
yeah,
Why? Why now? Why
yeah,
now?"
yeah. I mean, seriously. Yeah, that's just poker. That's like a lesson in just like, you can make all the right moves for the right reasons, recognize the situation, and then still kind of just like whatever, you just get hit with that top of range kind of thing. How come
Yeah.
you definitely think that you have no showdown value after after it goes three-way, I guess, on the river, showing down against two other people?
Yeah, I don't think so. I just like.
I'd say there's like a 10 there. I'd say there's a very small chance, like a 10 to 15% chance of sometimes showing down there and being good. And that's just something to be aware of. Um,
Mm-hmm. I think if we would have
you're going to
went
see some
check,
weird
check,
10Xs and other kind of like just some random stuff there sometimes.
right? Yeah, and 10x would definitely also bet the turn there. Because they
Yeah,
have a
just a small little
open
probe
ended.
like that.
Yeah,
You're
and they
you're
have an
gonna
open
see,
ender.
then you're gonna see like 3-3 from the small blind sometimes. So you like there's just like some weird stuff that'll happen there.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
Right,
so
right, right. That would make sense, right? Like a 10x pro bet and 3-3 calls for some showdown value. Because that was the thing. When there was a bet call, I definitely think, I definitely thought like I, I don't have like I'm behind here,
yeah.
and that
Just counting all options and thinking about what EV, I think the bluff there is definitely the best, but there probably is some EV in checking there sometimes. Just, I don't know, just something to consider.
well, I'm keeping my tournament life, and sure,
Yeah.
I'm down to maybe 10 big blinds, and then just let's.
But then you're in the big blind essentially. You're kind of, I don't know. But yeah,
Yeah,
you're still playing. So, just
yeah,
something.
yeah. There was still more poker to be played, um, and that was pretty. I mean, I was thinking about that move, and I was like, why did I make that move? But the more I looked at it, I was like, I like the move. Like, I like it. I mean, I don't think anything. I think he would fold the 9 there. Like, if let's say this is a different spade, not a 2, not giving him 2 pair, but I think he definitely folds 9 or a 9 or 8 there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if he folds a jack. Maybe not. Maybe it's a little too strong, but because that's a pretty good bluff catcher, I guess. In there, he can definitely say, I don't have an ace, and then you know,
I think possibly with his stack size, he's more curious at, for sure. But
yeah,
maybe not, because definitely, yeah, that's an issue too, where like on the river, yeah, you're basically only representing kind of like the spades at the sizing, or when you polarize this way. So I don't know, maybe he thinks with the jack it's a clear bluff catch because he wouldn't play your aces like that.
yep,
So
and yeah, and I definitely think that I wouldn't play my ace that way. So,
yeah. Cool. That's a bummer, man. Yeah, that's I like that hand. That's actually a really cool hand.
yeah, it was actually like that tournament. I felt like I played really well, for most part of it, and I took some I took some pretty big hits where I just get rivered, and that's that. What are you gonna do? That's poker.
Yep.
Like somebody calling, on a hilariously dry, low board, when I have pocket aces. A guy calls me with 6-3 with his gut shot, and gets there, and I'm
And
like,
gets
that's
there. It's
cool.
brutal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's fun. That's 40% of my stack. Here
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. That should just be, yeah, tournament poker, like aces collect. And, yeah, that should, always be an addition. Like, what do you 6-3? Come on, man. you know,
yeah, but I can't
but
even get mad because honestly, like as soon as we as soon as we showed cards, I was like, yes, thank you for your money, sir. You
yeah.
are a great player. I hope to run into you again. This is awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
And, and then River comes and I'm like, oh,
And,
come on now, come on, be nice. Come on, dealer, be nice. That's not fair. But it's I did what was signs of progress for me was not only like the level of play, but just being able to take some of those beats without like really impacting my gameplay. Because sometimes when I lose a good chunk of my stack, I tend to pull kind of take my pedal off the gas and start playing like a nit a little bit, and I'm like, and then basically I get even more tilted because then my ace queen runs into ace king, and I'm like, this always happens to me, blah 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 blah. But when this time I was just, I was like, okay, well, let's go. We still have a lot of poker to play, and built my stack from there. Got into some other shenanigan positions, but it was pretty. I was pretty happy with how the whole played out. How I played in that tournament. That specific run out was not my favorite.
Yeah. Well, that's really impressive that you were like self-aware of, that tendency and then to catch it kind of in the action. Did you just get ahead of it? Were you just kind of like, oh man, this is where you kind of go into knit mode? And were you thinking of that like, you know, just tell me more about that, because that's really good to both like catch that and then kind of play against that too, to your own strengths and play your A game still from that.
Yeah. Well, the so that's just my previous experiences from playing tournaments. I don't know how many did I play, but it definitely played over 100 at this point, and since February. So
Yeah, it's like a massive shift in terms of like, yeah, being able, if that was like definitely something that was then, because I've recognized that, yeah, just kind of like, you like busting out after like, or getting nitty or just basically like kind of losing that edge. So that's good
yeah,
that you're basically able to play through that and
and
recognize
then when
that.
I was looking back at those things, like basically when I was looking back after really bad streaks, I had 2 days where I lost like $700 in buy-ins. And I was like, ugh, what is happening here? So then I looked at my hands and I'm like, well, look at all these hands that I'm just folding. Like I'm just playing like such a nit because basically I would face some bad beats or face just coolers, just situations where I'm like, of course I'm gonna run my kings into aces. This is fun. And then after that, with a smaller stack, I just lose that momentum. And then I don't have any other way. What I realized is like, well, I'm not playing poker after that. I'm just playing roulette where I'm like, let's hope I have the best hand every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I was like, that's not gonna help me win. And that doesn't build, and it just doesn't feel like that's not the kind of poker I like to play. It doesn't feel good playing that, even like when you win, sure, it feels a little bit better. But I'm like, I can't be relying on just basically showing down the best hand to build my stack in these tournaments in order to be able to put myself in better positions. So after looking at that and seeing that I'm folding, I mean, marginal hands, they're not like, I'm not folding premium hands, but that's the thing. Those marginal hands, if I do want to outplay people, that's the value that I need to look at. That's the value that I need to like capitalize on. So that's basically what I started. After noticing that, I'm like, okay, let's not do that. Let's not go into nit mode. Let's keep on playing hands. And this was actually one of those signs. Like this is an adjustment. I had some beats here previously in this tournament because I was doing much better prior to this. I went from like 90 big blinds to 15, basically in this tournament. So and yeah, there was maybe two levels in there. So there's some, so the stacks, maybe the stack difference wasn't that big, but I lost at least half, maybe 60% of my stack. And I just, I decided like, well, even though early position fours, it's not my favorite. And I'm sitting there with 15 big blinds and I'm like, do I fold this? And my previous self would have folded that. It would have been like, well, what's the point? Like, what am I going to do here to a raise? What am I going to do here to this? Like, I don't like, what is this just? But I'm like, okay, let's play, let's limp this in. Um, and then there's probably like a tilt version of me that's like, and this is why you don't do this, Peter, because you limp in, you get in these situations, and then you bust out of the tournament. No, but that's too results oriented, I think. Too results oriented thinking, and that's also been something that I've been working on is getting that, just not looking at hands that way, not looking at runouts that way, and paying more attention to the strategy and the math behind the decisions that I'm making. And am I somewhere in the ballpark of something that makes sense, or am I completely off and just, like a nit or a maniac? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you're right
Um,
that you're looking at it the right way of, is this a plus EV? Am I entering? There's two great things. Like, yeah, am I entering like a plus EV situation? And I think you can definitely have a range here under the gun where you're developing a strategy like this. And then like, am I recognizing, plus EV opportunities post flop? And am I like aggressively going for them still? And you're just not going for, yeah, like sort of passive fit fold or reduced range, missed opportunities and like safer lines. You're still exploring higher EV opportunities here all along the way, um, with like the idea of like your range in mind. So I think that's really good. Um, I think that's really strong. And plus, like you were saying, just the whole realization of doing that anyway. You need to, this is like small chip poker, so you need to be carving out all this little like extra EV that you can, and
mhm.
like be making all these opportunities come to you is extremely important. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and because if I get passive with 15 big blinds, basically, then it's like, okay, you know, in half an hour, that's going to be 8 big blinds,
Yeah.
and it's like, what do I do with that stack? Well, that's at that point, I'm basically, I have one decision to make, and that's not fun poker when I'm like all in or fold, and that it's, I mean, it's okay. I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable being in that situation and still finding spots where maybe I could, re-steal and stuff like that, when it makes sense. But
Yeah, maybe there's like a
um,
button limp or something you can get in
yeah,
or whatever. Yeah, like all kinds of stuff like that. Those are the opportunities that, yeah, if you're paying attention, you're looking for any small edges that you can, and it sounds like you are. So that's good.
but it just gets so it gets so, I'm like, well, now I
It's
have the
tough.
five
Yeah, exactly. It's
fold
tough.
button. Yeah.
Tough if you miss and if, like you're saying, instead, if you pick up that pot going into your, blinds there, you just have a much more approachable, chip stack than you would if you just have like whatever, there's 10 BBs left. And then like,
Yeah,
you do.
yeah. And it's like, and if even if I win 1, 2 hands in a level, even just the blinds in 1, 2 hands in a level, that's actually going to keep preserve my stack and probably build it just a little bit to the point where I can, I can re-steal more effectively
Yeah.
against bigger stacks and things like that. So it just gives me more weapons, having a big stack. And I play much better when I have a big stack. Um, and I think everybody does. I don't that like there's very few players that I think, unless those people that just think they're gonna run like the sun forever, and they're just like, I'm calling everything. Which, by the way, happened in one of the tournaments that I played that I got knocked out 25th in. This guy, out of like, I think there's like 250 or 60 players that registered for that tournament. And this is like 4 hours into the tournament, 25 players left. Well, 26, I guess 25. Yeah, I was knocked out 25th. 25 players left. This guy has 425 big blinds. He has 130 starting stacks.
Oh my God.
He
Yeah.
has he had $120 in bounties, and I won that tournament before, and I won $180 in bounties. But I mean, then you win your own bounty, so it's like adds on top of that. But I had 180 at the very end, basically knocking everybody out. He has 120 with
Already.
24 people to
Jeez.
go. He has more chips than the rest of us combined, and he won the last 3 all-ins before he knocked me out in just devastating fashion. Like A7 versus Ace King pre-flop, flops two
Oh,
sevens.
geez.
Yeah, Jack 2 versus Ace 2 on a flop of 992, and he rivers a Jack.
Geez.
And then
Not wrong.
the
He's
very,
not wrong to like, he sounds like he's playing these hands. I mean, just he's sun running, obviously, but some
yeah,
that's
yeah.
reasonable with the big stack to be calling in there, like bottom pair,
Well, yeah,
ace X.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
Jack 2 versus, you mean
Yeah.
you
It's
have a
not like he's
set.
a
How do you
total,
not call that?
it's not like you can hate the guy for, as much. Well, you still hate him a little bit, but
I mean,
his, his,
honestly,
his run's a little more pure than him, like calling everything like an asshole.
yeah. Well, here's the crazy thing that happened. So then, like, this is literally 3 hands. Like, these are 4 hands in a row. So it was like the Jack 2. Okay, that's fine. Like, that's a fine call. The A7 pre-flop for like 30 big blinds. I don't know. I mean, he did have like 300 big blinds at that point, or something like 350, like pretty close. So, but whatever. What are you gonna do? He has a huge stack. Why not? He thinks even against kings, he has an out. So,
Sure. Yeah.
so he calls there. Then the very next hand, he raises. Somebody shoves. He calls, and the guy shoves kings, and he gets aces. So it's just,
Yeah.
and the very next hand, I get ace queen on the button. He raises. I shove for 20 bigs. He calls with 10-6 suited, and he hits it. And I'm like, well, And that point in time, I was actually thinking about that. I'm like, why call there? I mean, clearly you're running like, running like the sun. But sun running there, but why would you call 10-6 there? But the more that I thought about it, I'm like, well, against my shoving range there, he could be pretty confident he has 2 life cards, which is better than calling me with like a ace-3, a jack anything, queen anything, king X, anything like that. Like he has 2 life cards, which is better equity actually against my ace anything. So I was just thinking about that. I was like, okay. And then I kept on like processing the day after. I kept on processing what happened, and I was like, you know what? I'm actually pretty happy for that guy. Like that's pretty exciting. Like that must be amazing to have like 20 people left, and you're winning the tournament, because it's like, what do you have to do to lose here? Like double everybody up, and you'll still have half your stack. Like that's
yeah, what a great feeling. It would be so cruel to have that, like, not result in a win, because, just you can't run any better. That doesn't happen. Like, that's like the top end of like, your best run you're getting in your life with a monster stack like that. And, and everything's hitting, and it feels great.
Yeah, I mean,
when you already know the end of the tournament, when you're already that far ahead of it, like, it's amazing. Yeah.
And I was excited because when we were put back together, because me and him played together on the same table earlier in the tournament. And I felt like I really had like his number, and I was, winning pots from him. So I was like, when I saw him with a huge stack, I'm like, let's go. This is gonna be good. And it wasn't.
Yeah. That was his day, man. God bless him for that.
Yeah. That was kind of my attitude. I was like, well, that happens. So God bless you, sir. That's awesome. I would say good luck, but you kind of don't need it at that point.
Yeah, definitely not.
So let me see. I had some other hands. I actually emailed them to you.
Oh.
But I want to.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find them.
Have you been playing a little bit of cash, you were saying too?
Yeah, a little bit.
How's that going?
It's okay. It's going. Actually, I don't know. I wonder if I could just pull up my. I guess I'm kind of positive.
Cool.
But not. I don't play it. I don't think I played enough, like to actually like have something steady. I kind of play it not to get. I usually have a table running if I've been knocked out of a bunch of tournaments, and basically I just need something else to to occupy myself with as I'm playing that stuff.
It's good, definitely good to keep that going for sure. Your BB per 100s are like wildly different in swingy. Yeah, just keep getting the hands in. But overall,
Yeah, very swingy. I mean, I do take some chances, and that's actually like a thing that's that I found like it could be like a little bit dangerous. You do need to change your mindset when you're playing cash games, especially like pre-flop situations, all-in situations, and stuff like that. I mean, because like it sounds good to get your ace king all-in pre-flop. I mean, like in a tournament, that's a no-brainer. In most situations, unless you're crazy deep stack, past 100 big blinds. But with in a cash game, it's like what is he really going to be for betting me with? Like maybe we're just gonna split it, and if I have an ace king suited, maybe I'll get a free roll here. But apart from that, it's basically, I mean, I'm looking at a coin flip. And do I really want to like coin flip for 100 big blinds right now? Like, is that really how I want to play my hands? Like, I don't. Like some of the swings, like I realized I'm like, I three bet, he shoves all in, and I have ace king suited, and I sat there, and I think I had like a moment of hesitation of like, I don't think this is the move. Like, sure, you could lose this, but it, it's fine. And then my tournament brain was like, no, dude, you got ace king suited. Come on, man. You're basically just press the call button. And he shows jacks, and they hold, and I'm like, well, reload. Let's go again. Let's keep going.
I mean, yeah, the nice thing is you get to reload, and over time you build ranges and everything like that. But probably for those stakes, like you're gonna start getting, if you do get into those situations like a 4-bet or 5-bet thing, you're always looking at like some sort of domination basically.
Yeah, I think jacks is the bottom of that
ranges are
range.
really tight.
Yeah, pocket jacks are probably the bottom of that range, and then I'm looking at queens, kings, aces,
Yeah.
and sometimes
Yeah. So
ace king.
so it's nice to get in like, it does a flip, but I mean, realistically, people, I don't know, they're not like 10s and 9s. I don't know. They like things. You're right. They're jamming ranges are like sort of way different.
Yeah, and especially at the stakes that I play at. I mean, nobody four bet bluffs at the stakes that I play at.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean,
They're not balancing out all those like premium value 4-bets with, like ace 5 suited. So it's not like you're ever
yeah,
catching them in that domination spot with ace king suited, where that's like the amazing joy of sometimes like them getting in like a bad 5-bet bluff with like ace jack off or something. You're not like, holy, they're smoked, like at the lower stakes for sure. No one's balancing stuff out like that.
yeah. So that's why I'm like, nobody. Yeah, people aren't thinking about the game in this way, and basically, yeah, all the hands that I could be beating would be calling my 3-bet there. And basically none of the hands that re-raise me, I'm in super great shape. I'm coin flipping at best, and then I'm much more behind in other situations. So that was interesting. But yeah, as you can see, yeah, it's pretty, it's all over the place. But that's also because I do play different stakes from time to time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which is fun. And the tables are hilarious. I mean, like I when I play late at night, I mean, sometimes it's just like that's what ends up saving my session.
Yeah. Well, I mean, cash is awesome in so many different ways. And it's nice to, there are like crazy people on there and late at night. I wish I got to play more sessions like that. I miss it, man. Just watching people like sit down and just start kind of like punting, or where they develop that range where a 4-bet or 5-bet is like any ace X, and they're just getting it in. And it's also like jack 7 suited sometimes, and you find people like that a lot. Well, not a lot, but they exist out there. So
but is that at higher stakes?
That happens up and down. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah, because I could definitely see, I mean, somebody has to, I think at my stakes, like somebody has to be really tilted to be 4-betting with jack 7. But I think at higher stakes, where people are 3-betting more frequently, and and people have actually like a 3-bet bluff range, which I don't really think exists at my like stakes. I think maybe 1 or 2 players that I played against, actually I was like, you're 3-betting a little too much, let's see what happens here. So I actually did a 4-bet bluff against them here and there, and stuff like that. But usually it's like, okay, they mean business. Like they're 3-betting here. This is like 9s plus, ace jack suited plus.
Definitely. Yeah. That's exploit. If they're not, you just exploit, they're turning their hand 2 face up. So
yeah. Yep.
So I pulled up a jack hand. I don't know.
Yes.
The tournament stuff. I imported your hands.
Oh, nice. Mm-hmm. 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 I did see it.
Oh,
It was just here. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, it's a Poker Stars one. I don't know. Strange.
It is strange. Like when I ran this report just a second ago, I had it.
I've stolen that hand from you.
Do you want to share your screen and we could do it that way?
Let's just move on to a different hand.
Oh, sure. Oh, okay. Here's what happened. There it is. Okay, I see it.
Cool.
All right. I mean, yeah, pretty standard. Um, I'm raising bigger here. It's 3x the big blind because there's a limper, and that's usually something that I do. Like every time there's a limper, I basically add a big blind for every limper to my usual raise size if I'm deciding to open. And I don't know, what do you think about that? That's just like a rule of thumb for me that I picked up in one of the courses or the books that I was reading.
Yeah, it makes sense. Just think about also maybe sometimes tacking maybe an extra little bit on here with a hand like this. If you know, it's probably not that big of a deal to try to squeeze a little extra small amount of value, but the general rule of thumb, that's going to work great. I just, the only thing I would worry about if someone is bigger, like just making sure a big stack doesn't call behind and making sure that you always kind of have position in this hand if you can, and if that means like raising a little bit more pre-flop, just trying to get position here would be huge as
Okay.
well. But other than
So
that, yeah,
yeah,
I think you're absolutely like solid here. Punish that limper. Good size.
yeah, and I really want to isolate here.
Nice.
I'm not too
Yeah,
excited about going to the flop jacks multi-way here. So
definitely.
it doesn't end up working out. I like this flop. I'm pretty excited here. We have he leads out betting, and I'm like, okay, small blind range here. I doubt he has two pairs necessarily here because I don't know if he's calling here with what like 10-6 suited, 6-3 suited. Um, I mean, yeah, that's it. And I just don't think that's happening. I'm definitely putting more like suited connectors and stuff like that. And also any like 10x, 6x that he could have here. So basically, actually, I'm pretty excited when I see him bet because I'm like, okay, he has something. So there's a good chance that I could stack him and get it in. So there's another caller, and at that point, yeah, I just want to raise. I just want to shove it all in, and basically, if I could take it down right here, that's pretty good. If I get called, I'm again still pretty excited about that. If I get two callers, I'll be upset because then one of them has something.
Definitely. Yeah.
And because this guy did not re-raise and he's just calling here, I'm definitely putting him. I mean, there's basically no draws out here. Super dry board. So definitely putting him on just a pair. Maybe like 10x, something like that. But that kind of plays out, and yeah, I get a call. And I mean, that's all she wrote. Is but what I wanted to ask you about, the reason why I actually sent you this hand is like, is my assumption that he doesn't have two pairs here actually correct?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. People donk even multi-way like this with retarded, ridiculous stuff all the time. It's a very good assumption. It's a clean assumption. Even if you give him half those combos of the 10-6s and 6-3s or whatever, because it's like there's just not that many compared to his overall range of donking more, like the 4 combos that he may have here. Even if you account for them, his range is way wider than that. So he's just going to be leading with so much more just ridiculousness. He has 16 combos of 5-4 off. He's leading right here. I mean, it's huge. He could
Right.
be leading all kinds of other stuff too. That is just wide. So,
And that's another thing that I was also thinking. I'm like, I definitely think, a thinking player will lead on this flop into early position 3x pre-flop raise, since I'm representing a pretty strong range, and in most cases, unless I have an overpair as is happening, but if I'm sitting here with ace jack, ace queen, maybe even ace 10, ace king, king queen, king jack, his hand, he feels like it's pretty good here. He has a open-ended straight draw. Lots of good things can happen for him. But yeah, that's how the hand plays out. And sometimes the turn makes you sad, but
it's so sad when it's right there on the turn. It's not even like a sweat to the river. It's like, well, I'm dead now. I'm dead on the
yeah,
turn. Darn.
like there
Or
it is.
at least on the river, we're both like, we still don't know who's gonna win. But it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I have a superior hand and I'm dead on the turn. It hurts.
It hurts. It hurts.
Really great spot to recognize just to get it in. Obviously, your overall range probably has like, I don't know, 40% equity, four-way here, three-way or something like that. And this is one of the highest equity hands that you're going to have in your range, other than like 10. I don't know. It's just a great hand.
Right.
It's a huge plus EV high equity spot for you.
Yeah, and I wanted to shove rather than a re-raise there. Just because I didn't want to be calling a shove in that spot, especially from like, I don't know, a limper.
Yeah,
Because
you don't
then
want
I'm
to
like,
close the action with like such a strong hand. Maybe if your hand for some reason had like 90% EV, like of the EV here,
right.
or the equity or something like that, like tens,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, but still, like there's just so much money to be made here, by putting money in.
Yeah, and that was something I was thinking. I was like, maybe somebody with pocket threes or pocket sixes, like this guy stacks under the gun. You know, I mean, maybe he's just trapping here, calling that lead bet. So that's why, yeah, I didn't want to be faced with that decision and then being like, where I'm at.
Yeah, you can see you just went from amazing equity to zero, 70 to like 70 to zero. So it's like, like and plus a two seems kind of like somewhat innocuous too, but one of the brickest of cards and now you're dead. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
it's good to get it in on this kind of board that can change wildly with equities with this multi-way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, then that's that. Okay. That was the bluff. Do I remember this hand? Okay, so this is another interesting hand. Yep. So yeah, I just flat on the button with my pocket fives. Um, I don't. I've started doing that more often recently. I think when I just started playing, just to simplify, I kind of had like a three bet or fold button strategy for most of the stuff. But I think as I learned a little more post flop, I mean a lot more actually compared to what I knew before. I still have a lot to learn, but compared to where I was. So, but as my post flop skills were improving, I started feeling more comfortable flatting,
Nice.
hands on the button. And yep. So flop is pretty dry. I'm thinking, I mean, how many 9x's or jack x's does he have in his range there? I mean, I definitely don't put him on any nines except for maybe pocket nines, which would be a monster and that'd be sad. But
yeah, it's just so improbable there for him to be that strong.
yeah,
But, yeah, you're right.
So I call it off here. And now, so he bets again. And yeah, actually now that I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, why did I do this? This is not a good play. So he bets, and I don't know why. I think I did not recheck my assumptions, and I'm like, well, he could be betting with a bunch of flush draws and basically two overcards. And he increases bet size basically to half pot. It was the first bet half pot? Well, almost, but basically, yeah.
Under, yeah. Now it's a little over.
Yeah, now it's just a little bit over half pot. So I'm like, okay, this could definitely be, just a hand that he's gonna double barrel with or triple barrel with when he misses the flop. And I'm like, and then the turn card is pretty good for me. I mean, it puts it's pretty good for my range, not for my hand, but it's pretty good for my range. My button calling range there, is all over this board. I think, with hands like, queen 10 or other suited connectors, basically. So I decided to go for a move here where I re-raise him. And he shoves and we fold. But that's that. And I just wanted to get your thoughts about what do you think in this situation. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, okay, the second bet could definitely be over pairs and tens here. Especially like the more I look at it, the more I'm like tens. and especially the shove afterwards. I'm like, well, yeah, it's not like I don't think it's not like he wouldn't do this with tens, because he does have an open ender here. Um, and he has a good chance to believe that I don't have a 9. Why wouldn't I re-raise the flop with a 9 unless I'm trying to slow play it? And if I have a jack, I mean, then I think it would be a questionable call here for me in most cases. So the hand that I'm wrapping is like basically either I hit my straight, with the 8, or basically, I'm looking at an open-ended straight and flush draw, something like that.
Definitely an interesting hand for sure. I don't know, applying pressure like that on the turn for that. I guess it makes sense. I mean, it's a polarizing bet, and you can definitely polarize here and represent certain things. With 5s, I mean, it definitely hurts to take a depolarized hand that's kind of bluff catching here and then get after it with them, because you fold yourself out of some equity. His bigger bet size, I mean, I definitely think his range is still kind of wide enough to try something like that. He's still saying that he has, like, what else could he be betting? Like certainly top pairs. He has his over pairs. Don't really think he has a lot of 9s, king, queen off, and he turns spades. 10s definitely makes a lot of sense. What's his, like, I just feel like it's interesting because I don't know if he's betting this size always with all his stuff. Like, you feel like maybe he'd want to bet a little bit bigger. I don't know. It just feels like one pair, and he's definitely just trying to put some more money in the pot because he's in okay spot. And I definitely see, a hand like 10s, jack 10, something like that making a lot of sense. I don't know how much fold equity you have here for that size. So that's, I think, maybe probably one of the problems with that raise is I think he's going to continue a lot. Unless he's like, just, like, I don't know, just trying to apply a lot of pressure with a different kind of range creation. And he just has like ace 2 or something like that. I don't know how much fold equity you have there because, his cards are either going to still be pretty live no matter what. The board it's probably very practical for him to see the river in this spot.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. And now the more that I think about it, I think that raise, I think just that size is like neither here nor there. Because I still give him great pot odds with lots of hands that he'd be betting, raising pre-flop, betting flop, betting turn here with. So
it's really sexy when you actually have a really strong hand, because it's like, oh man, like, it doesn't feel really good if he just calls here, like, or he's gonna have to shove here and you can't feel super confident, because you can definitely do this like super strong for this size and like put someone in like a world of pain and annoyance. But unfortunately, in this, I guess it just didn't. The rejam there is just kind of brutal for the actual kind of hand that you had in this circumstance.
Yeah. And I also think, like, I mean, he has to be thinking, does he have a 9? I mean, he really does have to be thinking that with I mean, being on the button and calling, and then, maybe I'm slow playing here, and then I decide to get a little more aggressive, and kind of re-raise to protect some of my equity because the board is getting more drawy, and what I mean, I don't like that.
You can have so many, exactly. Yeah, you can have so many 9s here that just say like, all right, let's build the pot. I want to make sure I get it all in by the river, but we're just going to build it and take kind of control of it right now for sure.
Interesting.
Turn raises are an interesting spot for sure.
And that's another thing that I was thinking, because my gut instinct was actually to re-raise on the flop, because I'm like, what? I mean, sure, he still has to be worried about the 9, and I guess ace jack and king jack are calling me here, but I felt like because turn raises are usually just represent so much more strength. And one of the things that I read, or one of the videos that I was watching, that was talking about this specifically, turn raising spots. It was a quote from a book. I forget what book it was, but some kind of poker classic book. And it was something like you have to really reevaluate the strength of your hand when facing a turn raise. So I figure even if he got, over pair or top pair here, he, I'm going to give him something to think about.
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
he
It's
definitely
really,
gave me,
yeah. And then right back at you.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too bad you can't find out. It's just not on like Ignition or something like that, where you can find out what he had, and what he was like rejamming with. Because
How can you can find that out on Ignition? How?
yeah, they just after 24 hours they make it public or not, whatever. They make it available if you played in the hand, to get the full hand history of what everyone had. So it definitely
Oh,
answers a lot of questions in
that
spots like
is
this.
fascinating. I can't believe Ignition does that.
Yeah.
What a weird website. They like don't include people's names. They just give everybody a number, but then they do that thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Oh,
interesting that like, yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know.
that actually
For
makes sense because
integrity or
then you,
something.
you don't know if you're playing the same player the next time. So it doesn't give you that advantage. It doesn't
Yeah,
give you the advantage of really figuring out how somebody plays because you see, after 24 hours, you see all their
you
hands
won't
face
know.
up.
Yeah.
You
So
won't know
yeah,
if you're playing the same guy.
yeah.
All right. Well, that was that. Um,
Oh, do I know Wes?
so what do we have here? Okay, I'm gonna cut off 2.5 raise here. I get he flats here. And when he flats here, I'm like, actually, like, I did not expect him to have tens at all. I definitely expected just more suited connectors, maybe some weaker Broadway cards, Queen 10, Jack 10,
What's
stuff
his
like that.
VPIP? Pull his stats up real quick. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah.
29, but only,
Yeah.
I mean, I only have 35. That's out of 35 hands. So
That's
probably,
that's a decent idea for profile though. That yeah, I mean I agree with that. I would definitely any tens is he probably only raises strong hands. Tens probably fits into at least somewhat frequency. I would think 3-bet there,
yeah,
especially the button. I mean definitely. Yeah. All right. Cool.
I definitely thought, maybe I'd get 3-bet here. And then this happens. And this is again, like, I think we talked about this last time. We talked about, monotone flops. And it's always just so, and every time I see it, unless I have those suits, I get so anxious.
Yeah, definitely. Well, look at what you're up against. I mean, you're up against something that should be, otherwise equity smoking him. You hit your ace against his pocket 10, that's amazing,
Yeah.
except for you're like, he's super freaking live still. Like it
Yeah,
sucks.
he's so live.
Yeah.
I mean, he has the gut shots, he has the flush draws, and I have no spades. So I still I still like betting on monotone boards. I feel like because it's easier to attack it than to defend it in so many senses. I feel like defending on a monotone board is so hard. It's like, okay, you call here, and what do you do against like a turn 3/4 bet if you don't have the spades? I mean, the fact that the flush is already out there, every single bet, it's almost like confirmation that like I have it, and then you know what I mean? Sure, you could hear a call, but then I bet you there's going to be spots where it's like, well, why did I even call there? It was obvious. He bets the flop, he bets the turn. So
tactically, exactly. It's really nice to keep your range uncapped there, where that person calling down has a lot of issues of knowing exactly, like you could be anywhere in your range. So
yeah. And here, and this is the move that I do not like. And I mean, maybe it's a little bit more results oriented, but that check there for me just, I don't know, it just shows weakness, and not like more like psychological weakness. Like the proper line I think would have been to definitely bet again and barrel there again. And like, sure, some of the time, and maybe that's a little too results oriented. That's why I wanted to get your thoughts about it, because basically the way this goes down is that it goes check on the turn, and then this happens, and we check, he bets. I feel like I have to call, because it's such a small bet.
yeah, you got milked there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But there's really kind of only, what are the outcomes of this hand? If you start going into check call mode down, you only want to have as few bets go in as possible, and you want them basically as small as possible. So you kind of like walked yourself into this node where it's not like a terrible outcome to kind of like, call down here, I guess, and make this, but realistically, you gave up the more advantageous node of if you're going to put more money in, and the ace probably can still apply a lot of pressure and, get worse hands to call, then betting makes more sense here for sure.
And if I bet here, I mean, if I bet here, if I bet on the turn, sorry, if I bet on the turn, I mean, I think, especially with a big enough bet, I think it could generate, some fold equity here. I mean, it definitely can generate some folds here, which is great.
You
But
could
then
have two
again,
sizes for sure, and so you could have two sizes here if you really wanted, and probably have an overbet all in and like a 3/4.
mhm.
So that's definitely great because those really target a lot of his range. You can put him in a lot of hard spots where he has to fold a lot of equity. He can maybe fold better too, which is nice, instead of just things that have like live equity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really advantageous. When you're dead here, sometimes he's going to have just like Jack 9 of spades, and you're dead. So it doesn't really matter. So
Yeah.
if you're willing to get money in and realize that the SPR, you'll be kind of fine. And the SPR is like 2. So, and he's still live, like it's probably better to attack it and make him feel more
Yeah.
comfortable than to go into bluff catch mode where he's kind of like
Mhm.
live and everything. So,
That's, man, I can't believe I missed that in this hand completely. Just that compared to his stack, the SPR is so low that I actually do have, yeah, that I shouldn't, that I definitely should be betting. Should be betting this turn, because it's like he has to have it to call me here. But instead, yeah, we kind of get milked. And this is an obvious bet for him, right? I mean, he only loses to a Jack of spades here,
which is a line you're never playing. And, yeah, I mean, what else can you do other than kind of throw out an exploitive bet? I mean, he's not doing that with other parts of his range.
And it's,
I
I
don't know
mean,
if
it's
you
so
can hear my
good.
kid yelling in the background.
A little bit.
But yeah, it's a milk bet. It sucks getting put in those spots, but realistically, you kind of get there and you kind of have to call. Unfortunately, no one's a better poker player to like have the clairvoyance there to actually make that fold when they're behind.
Yeah, I'm like, I mean, that would be pretty sick if I could make that fold. But I don't know if I make that fold. I don't know. I could just be staying up and being like, did I just get juked? I get juked here. Did I give him this cheapest bluff ever?
Yeah, realistically, mathematically, they do have, you catch it, even though more often than not they have the value. That's what the pure math is, obviously. So you just don't let them get away with it because it's brutal when they actually do. So
right, yeah, and I didn't feel like I could like raise here or shove here. I mean, there's nothing.
Yep. The
There's
only
nothing
hand
that's
that would ever
happening
play like that is probably like a royal flush, which you don't have. So
can you imagine? And he has a blocker for it too.
yeah,
So.
and he has a blocker. Yeah, so
I did see a royal flush actually like this past month on poker. I was like, it happened. I saw it.
yeah,
It happened.
Someday in your journey, you'll be like, I can't believe it. I saw quads and then a royal and then quads again. And like online poker, like how does that happen so often? Is this whole thing rigged? Who knows? But
I'm just thinking like what would be the advantage for the poker sites to rig the website? I mean, they already have like a workable business model. So
it's a cash flow. I know. Why would you like do too much to that cash cow anyway? That's just software already running. Like
yeah.
But.
So another ace-4 hand here. I mean, did you have anything else to say about that?
No, not really. I would yeah, those boards, if you do decide to take the more active aggressive route, you just basically keep going with it. Don't slow down, basically.
Yeah,
for sure. Especially because you're making a choice to keep your range wider when you're doing that. If you're making like and you got to keep getting at it, because both ranges are so wide, and you keep making yours stronger when you bet, and his keeps kind of like getting weaker basically because he's capping himself and you're staying uncapped. So you just kind of keep getting at it and putting them in tough spots, basically. So, which yeah,
That makes sense. Yeah. And that's why I was so upset when like I knew I had to call that bet. I called that bet. I was almost sure I was losing, but I still knew like I'm getting 4-1. So I'm calling there. And and then as soon as I see a hand, I was like, why did I sissied out. I sissied out on the turn.
yeah. The best bet size is 25% when you're doing that as a C bet, but that doesn't really matter out of position as much because you just want to keep telling the story that you're strong there, and betting bigger represents that more in people's mind, like a more polarizing size. If you were
Do you
super
mean on the
strong,
flop?
yeah, if you were
25%?
25% is kind of like what GTO defaults to, but
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even bother with that narrative. I would just, just bet bigger. There's some uh, advantages with keeping their range wide, more so on the flop, but realistically, you don't want to keep their range wide. Any bet on the flop where you're saying you're strong, like allowing them to draw cheaply on a board like that, is silly. So you just kind of bet bigger and just kind of get it on from there, basically.
Yeah.
Especially out of position. In
Mm-hmm.
position, maybe you can do a little differently. But I would say if this is your strategy, yeah, just kind of fire barrels and get at it.
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah, so yeah, you just kind of confirmed some questions that I had. Like, yeah, I'm like, in position, I may have bet 25% there, but out of position, I usually like to at least do a half pot when I'm betting into, and I have the initiative
Definitely, yeah.
to keep going. But okay, um, fold. We get okay. Yeah, I raised 2.5. Both the blinds come along. So yeah, I don't like this flop too much, and actually I don't even remember what I did here. Okay. Yeah, so I figure I have a backdoor flush draw, and I have an overcard ace. That board doesn't smash anything. I mean, there could be some two pairs here, but apart from everything else, I even if he has a jack or any nine that he's betting out here, um, I still like a call here. Um, I don't know, multi-way. I don't know how good that is to be calling there, because it's so weak. I'm capping my range. Like, yeah. So I don't know. That's just the initial thoughts. The guy folds. Okay, we're just gonna close you because you're annoying. Thank you. So the guy folds. Let's see if we can make this bigger. Oop. This is another bet. I call. Now I have a flush draw. I think I have the oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Yeah, I definitely have the pot odds to call here. Right around. Well, if I factor in that, I think if I hit my ace, then I'll still be good.
I think that's all good. You have a ton of implied odds too.
Right. Yeah.
It's,
So
it's
yeah.
huge.
So when I do hit my flush and he's been betting into me, and I am in position, so that's going to be fun to see a club there. But then the queen comes, and at this point, I'm like, oh, I do not like this at all. Any king, if he had a combo draw here, I'm pretty dead. He's been betting all around. Yeah. So we just folded out here. And yeah, I was just curious. I was like, was that too fishy of a play? To just call multi-way there on the flop and then call the turn.
I don't think so. There is, yeah, gosh, an argument for all in on the turn, but unfortunately, you don't block any of what would almost be his certain continue range. He has to be like betting really wide to not probably, I mean, all in the turn. Or what's no 3x is 24, leaving a small amount behind on the river. That's weird. Stack sizes are weird. I mean, he really jams you up on the river too, because you're technically capable and allowed by not raising the turn. You could still be floating a hand like ace king maybe, and then raise all in on the river. But he puts you in such a crap spot that he's definitely saying for when you on the river, when you only have like the 20,000 left to his 20,000 bet or so, that really screws you. Donk's spots are just so wide. Does he have, I mean, if you polarize raise the turn here, shit, I don't know. It's a tough spot. I don't think it's too weak to make, I don't think it's too weak to make a call. It's just, he took away your opportunity to bluff the river, which sucks. I think maybe, yeah, I wonder if he fires all rivers like this. I mean, what do you do on an 8 down? That, if that doesn't help you. Triple donks are tough. I mean, this guy, mass data shows, is probably just also completely like full of nonsense sometimes here. Like he may have a hand like ace 8, which would be crazy. You just end up like chopping with it, or like 8-6 of clubs, kind of stuff like that. People just kind of do. You just find out that people donk all the time with actual more ridiculous stuff than what you can construct on them in a range. It just, yeah, it wouldn't seem like you would have a lot of kings here unless it was, I mean, would he really donk king jack, king queen, I guess maybe? I don't know. It's a crazy spot, Peter. I don't think, I don't know. I'd have to run. I'm actually interested. I'm going to like run Sims on here because I don't really know what the turn strategy is. And it's interesting though. What's nice with such backdoor draws like that is they're so disguised that if a club does come in, you'd always kind of like, there's no sense in fast playing it because you have the option, the luxury of seeing if you even hit on the river anyway.
Yeah. And by the way, this is that guy. This is the
that
guy
was a guy. I know, right? Yeah. J Roth. Yeah. So.
And yeah, this guy dunk bets all the time. So, like literally, like any multi-way pod that he's in, he's gonna lead out. And that actually, now that I think about it, like that was like, is a re-raise on the flop? Is that an option? Is that something that's strategically sound?
You generally, it's tough. That's where, like, if that's his strategy, you almost always want to continue to the turn just because for some reason they give up on their donks and you can apply pressure and win easily. Then sometimes, like, they're donking, they still continue to donk, and they still have like a super wide range if this is their strategy. It's generally better. That's why I was thinking like 3x raise maybe on the turn may be the best play because it just punishes them. It punishes that wide range so much more. You'd be surprised. You do find a lot of folds on turn raises here for sure.
So like 24,000
24,
yeah. Re-raise
24, call it off. Basically, you have to. It's unfortunate that, like, the downside of that is, I mean, you're raising with some fold equity, obviously live equity. Ace high could be good sometimes, which is nice. So that's pretty good. It's just on the problem on the river, then you can't bluff again. So you have to show down ace high just because with your stack size, where maybe it's better on the river to be drawing live and keep a larger stack size where you could potentially bluff all in on the river. It's just that his triple donk like really jammed you up. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of like predicting and seeing the hand in the future. There's definitely, you're presented like two viable kind of ways to play this hand on the turn for sure. And depending on river reaction, I don't know, knowing that it's this guy, maybe a turn raise is attractive. But if he's hitting everything, he probably has king, queen of clubs, and like you're done. So, and like the jack, or he has king, queen, yeah, and the jack comes on the river.
Yeah. the jack of clubs. Well, so yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, at least I wasn't too fishy. Maybe, yeah, I could have 3x there. And actually, I like that. The more you say, the more I like it. Yeah, I 3x, and then if he shoves, I call. Because I kind of have to. I'm left with
You just have to
so
at
little
that point.
behind.
Yeah. I mean, plus it protects, I mean, some other range. I mean, if you do have to have bluffs there, it's a beautiful bluff to have, because you're just so alive.
Yeah.
Peter,
Well,
I may have to make this my last hand.
okay, that's fine. Thank you.
For
That's
sure.
so good.
Because yeah, we're gonna get nice day out, get the family out and about for a bit. So I thought this is great. I'll look through some of these other hands that you sent me, and we can talk again soon on some of this stuff. Maybe just even whatever. We'll figure it out. I don't know if it has to be next Tuesday or something, but
Oh, sure.
cool.
I'll remind you on. Well, we'll see. On Thursday, I may be working, so I'll probably be driving. But I'll shoot you a text.
Cool.
If we could do it
Alright.
over the phone, and then if that doesn't work out, that's fine. Next Tuesday.
All right,
for
that'd
that.
be excellent. Because
Alright.
yeah, these are good. I think I want to be in these 20 streets too, man. I'm really liking how you're playing. It looks really good, and I think you're coming along really fast. So that's good too. So cool, man.
Well, thanks, man. Your help has been instrumental. Like, I mean, there's so many times just hearing the things that you spot in a hand, like that SBR thing, that was so huge. Like, I didn't take that into consideration, even though it's so important there.
Yeah.
In that spot. And if the more I start looking at hands, especially when I'm playing and not missing those details, just the more spots I'll find where
Cool. Well, yeah, I
get
definitely see
edge.
that you're like hyper observant and like playing all this stuff and putting it to practice. So it's cool. It's good to see.
Awesome. Well, thanks, man. I
Yeah, for
appreciate
sure.
you. Have a good day with the fam outside.
Yeah.
Enjoy the weather.
You as well, man. Get the boys out, and let them run around for a bit or something. And,
Yeah, they're out with my wife right now, so they're having a blast.
cool,
But
man.
we're getting ready to move out, so I'll be going outside and trying. Tomorrow's trash